Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at BellisioFoods.com/careers.
The Jackson County Fair Board, in conjunction with Total Media, proudly present Neil McCoy. Neil McCoy. Saturday, July 15th at the Jackson County Fair. VIP track access seats now available for only $30, which includes admission to the fair. Get tickets now at JacksonCooHfair.com or at the Total Media Studios in Jackson.
Morning show again right here on Main Street TV, where I am here, Jennifer, to start your morning with some of our good friends, and we're going to be talking about a really cool event that you have coming up. It's this weekend, right?
It's Friday.
Oh, it's Friday. Okay, so tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Well, first off, would you all introduce yourselves? I know you've been here before, but just in case people don't know.
I'll return the mic toward her.
Oh. There you go.
I'm Crystal Miller. I am the chair of our Suicide Prevention Collaborative.
And I'm Shannon Dalton. I'm with the Gallia Jackson Meigs Adam H. Board.
Okay, very good. And you all, can you first off tell us a little bit about the organizations that you know, where you work and why you're here, you know, that kind of thing.
Sure. I actually work for Hopewell Health Centers. I'm the coordinator of our suicide prevention grant for Gallia Jackson and Meigs, and of the chair of the Gallia Jackson Meigs Suicide Prevention Collaborative. What that is, it's a group we have formed. They were all separate. Gallia Jackson and Meigs all had one, but we thought, well, why don't we just come together as a community?
Love that.
Since we're all communities anyways.
Yeah.
And it's been a slow process trying to get everything started, but we have actually had our first 2 hybrid meetings, and the in-person meetings are actually at the Adam board. So, yeah,
Okay.
We're really excited. We have got our website up and running, and, it seems like things are really going well, but we need some stakeholders. We need community members. We need businesses in the community. You just need all aspects from, different areas.
Support.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just financial support. We need, people support.
Yeah.
In order to have a good collaborative or committee, you have to have, obviously the people that you need. That's the main thing that we need.
Sure, absolutely.
So the community coalitions are community-owned, community-driven. So while the Adam Board, the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, Mental Health Board, we support our coalitions. So from our prevention coalitions like Jackson County Spark, Gallia Hope, and the Meigs Prevention Coalition, we also, support the Suicide Prevention Collaborative. The Alcohol, Drug Addiction, Mental Health Board, we're here as the local authority figure on alcohol, drug addiction, mental health services. We help fund, we help plan and partner with a lot of our community members and agencies.
Very good. Now, where are you based?
So our office is in Gallipolis.
Okay.
But we serve Gallia, Jackson, and Meigs counties. And so
okay.
For me, a lot of people in the counties, they'll see my face. It's typically at the coalition meetings or at community events. And then we have our executive director, Robin Harris, and our deputy director, Angela Stowers. They have different roles that they do. And Robin, she actually spends a lot of time up in our state capitol with legislative issues. And then Angela Stowers, she works a lot closely with our providers and doing planning programs like the CIT program, which is the crisis intervention training that our law enforcement and first responders take.
So wow, you guys are Man, you all are busy. So it's interesting that you're here together because you don't necessarily work for the same agencies, but you're collaborating on this particular event and, just in life in general, with your services, which is really cool.
Like Shannon said, we could not function without the Adam Board. I mean, they are our absolute support for everything. And that's another reason that the Suicide Prevention Collaborative, we put those together because it's the same board area. And it just makes it easier because the same people was all at the same meetings. And it was just easier to combine us all together because we were all like family units. It was just easier to put the whole family together.
Now, I do want to say, we would be absolutely awful if we actually didn't remind everybody about our other partner, which is the University of Rio Grande Community College. We have been working closely with their mental health services director and some of the other students and organizations that are there on campus to help put on this Hope Fest at the University of Rio Grande. It started as an Out of Darkness walk. The Art of Darkness walks that the university was doing in partnership with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. But, we've gone in a new direction to make sure that it's community driven, it's community led, and that the funds that are raised stay in the community.
That's important.
Yeah.
And that's not to knock any other, organizations or whatever, but there are a lot of things that happen where the funds just right out of town, right out of state. And, it's important, I think, for people to know that it would stay here.
And we're not saying that like AFSP didn't, wasn't doing anything. It's just that
No, not at all.
We absolutely appreciate everything they do. But I can say that the funds that are being raised, they're being divided between providing mental health speakers at the University of Rio Grande campus. It's also funding's going towards the Mindy Pope Scholarship.
Okay.
And then, of course, the other remaining part goes towards the Suicide Prevention Collaborative to be able to do further community education events as well.
Okay. And, I heard a little bit of your interview on the radio as I was pulling into the parking lot. And I think, Crystal, you were talking, or one of you were talking about, the suicide rates here. And I think a lot of people live in the dark or with their head in the sand when it comes to that because it's not a news story, right? So it's not highly publicized. You hear someone passes and you just say, oh, okay. And you don't think about the fact that maybe they took their own life. And that does happen around here. And honestly, our rates are pretty high from what you girls were saying.
Yeah. Gallia's number 1. Meg's is number 5, and Jackson's actually number 3. But
is that in the state?
Yeah, that's across the state.
Are you talking about in the state of Ohio?
Yes.
Yeah,
our counties, our surrounding counties.
Suicide rates. And that's based on a 100,000 population, so that's based off of that rate. But it's exceedingly high for our counties when compared to larger counties, and they have higher populations. It's that population ratio. So while we may only have what may be perceived as a small number, it's rather large
per capita.
Yeah, per capita.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, the percentage is that's what we're doing. It's like when we had COVID, we had 300 cases here and Columbus had 30,000 cases, and people go, oh, well, but it's per capita. It's the ratio that we're talking about here. So do you have statistics on suicides in our area? Because, you just don't hear anything about it.
Yeah, we have actually the data that we were reading is from 2021. We should be getting data for 2022 coming out, and due to the suicides that we had in the 3 counties, that's actually going to bump up. Meg's will probably move to number 1.
You're kidding.
I actually do want to clarify, though, that is from this data being collected is from 2016 until 2020, early 2021. So it's
collaboration.
It is a broader. It's not like we had this in this one year. Granted, we are seeing a high number of suicides.
Are they increasing?
Every year, they have, well, I think Meigs County was actually down at number 10. We weren't as high. Yes, they keep bumping up. And in the U.S., it keeps going up too. We're at 47,000 people a year that we lose in the United States.
And in our state, it's, we have 5 people that die by suicide.
Every day.
5 every day.
Are you kidding me? Those are like staggering statistics. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here like kind of in shock.
And we never talk
that.
about it.
That's the whole point is, I'm sitting here, you're telling me something that I'm just like staggered by, and, I'm here every day and whatever, and nobody talks about it.
That's because
Why?
Stigma. Many people are hesitant to talk about suicide because of stigma. Stigma, basically, it creates a barrier for help seeking. It creates a barrier for those people who have suicidal thoughts, those who have previously attempted suicide, or even lost a loved one to suicide. It's just that.
Are they ashamed, or I'm confused?
A lot of times they are ashamed and they don't know where to get services. We don't want to promote, the population doesn't want to promote, hey, it's okay, to not be okay. I think that's what we need to realize. There's a ton of people walking around, people you probably even work with, and they're
Sure.
struggling, and we have no idea because they're ashamed. They don't want to tell anybody.
Well, we're all actors, right? So, it's very possible that, somebody that puts on this brave face but goes home and just loses their mind every day. And
Exactly.
that's so sad. It should not happen. And we should all be here and support each other, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what you girls are trying to do.
Yeah, some of it's not the community's fault, though, if you don't know what to look for. That's why we do suicide prevention training. Specifically, I do QPR training, which is question, persuade, refer. It's just an hour training, and it tells you the warning signs to look for, what you do if you come across someone that might be suicidal. And I think that's very important because there's a lot of myths that we believe, as a society. If you talk to someone about suicide, you're going to give them the idea,
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to it's like you're telling them to do it, or you're giving them the thought to
Yeah.
start-
And as professionals, we think, that's silly. But I mean, it's not silly.
because
People-
because you've been trained.
Yeah.
I haven't. So I don't think that. I think that sounds goofy to me, but like I understand
Yeah.
why people would think that.
Yeah.
And of course, now there's a new number that's out, 988, which is the suicide crisis, the suicide and crisis lifeline. This was the original. This is a new transition for what used to be the suicide lifeline, which was a long number. It was a long 800 number. Now they have made it nationwide to be a 3-digit number.
So same
you
as
call
911.
911
for
but
emergency.
988
for suicide.
Yeah.
or any
Help.
or any other crisis that could be linked with addiction, or
Okay.
if you're struggling in a moment, that is where you call. Obviously, if you're in an immediate emergency,
Yeah.
then you would call 911.
Sure.
But if you're just struggling with some thoughts or something, you can call 988. And of course, we've also got the crisis text line too, which is 741-741, and you would text for hope to that. And even the 988 is also call or text.
Oh, okay.
That's really neat because especially a lot of teenagers,
Hey,
they don't
listen.
want to talk on the phone. You call them and they'll send you a text. Please text me.
It may be it may be, as people are ashamed or whatever, that it's easier for them to text something than to actually say it out loud too.
Yeah.
It can be hard to get on the phone and talk with a stranger. It's anxiety. That's why texting has become,
Sure.
that available resource as well.
Okay, that's awesome to know. So, why are our local counties, kind of at the top of the suicide rate in the state? Why does anyone know?
I'm going to say that we actually don't know, but that's why we're working on data collection. We're working
why
on
you're doing what you're doing.
It's why we're doing what we're doing. But we do know that the majority of our suicides have been white men over the age of 45 by firearm.
Okay.
That's the hardest population to usually reach, because they were raised exactly. Yeah. You don't share your feelings. You
have to be a man.
If you've had trauma, you can't talk about it. A lot of times men have had, some form of abuse as a kid, and, they didn't talk about it, and they never talk about it until some kind of crisis happens when they're an adult, and then that all comes rushing back.
Sure. Something triggers or whatever.
And so, for men, even for anybody actually right now that's, because obviously we talk about firearms as being a lethal means, there is a campaign right now called Life Site Ohio through the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation that is educating and working with firearms retailers. It's working with our veterans. It's working with our public safety and anyone, basically to sort of capture that audience. It's not about taking away Second Amendment rights. It's about how can we come together to address suicide while respecting our gun culture.
So it's very interesting that you are talking about that, because as I was leaving or getting ready to leave my house today, I saw an interview with the parents of the young man that shot a bunch of people at the bank, and he was only 25 years old, and they wanted to speak out and basically apologize, but they didn't know their son had a gun, and they were just like, he was really struggling with anxiety and some issues, and he was in counseling and all that, but we had no idea that he had a gun. And they're like, we're not about taking guns from people. It's not that. But he shouldn't have had a gun. He shouldn't have been able to get a gun. He was really struggling. And so they were like, that's what we want to do. We want to work with what you were just saying. And I thought, so it's kind of interesting that all ties together. It's not about taking guns from people, but it's about making sure that it's safe for folks to own them.
Right.
At that time.
And, but yeah, I just.
And how in the heck you figure that out, I don't know. There's a lot of, y'all are smarter than, the average bear when it comes to that, but.
It's been a slow process. And I think like Shannon had said, I think in this Appalachian area where we use firearms, for protection and for hunting.
And there's all kind of reasons to own a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, God knows my neighbor recreate with their guns all the time.
I feel you. All hours of the night. Yeah. And people don't realize, hey, someone, and I don't think we think, oh, we're just going to use that for hunting. We don't think, oh, someone could really harm themselves with it. And that goes into education too. There's counseling on access to lethal means, and it just tells you what to look for, what you can do if your loved one, is suicidal. And a lot of times if someone is suicidal, going through a crisis, if you have someone that they can trust, take their gun. Now they'll be apt to, give it up until they feel better, but it has to be a trusted person because they're afraid they're not going to get their firearm back.
Someone that they respect and that they can trust.
Exactly.
Wow, there's a whole lot. Man, I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
We could have a couple of other shows.
Yeah, no doubt. But I'm glad you guys are here to talk about it, because it's just one of those things that we had the girls from the health department in talking the other day about, they're STIs now. And I was like, the same thing. They're like, no one wants to talk about it. STDs, basically, and I'm like, oh, let's talk about it. Let's get it out here on the table. Unless people know and are aware, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's the same thing. If people don't know there's treatment options around, they're not going to, we could decrease the sexual transmission if people realized, hey, the health department has all kinds of accesses. Yeah.
Exactly. Just go there and talk to them. So same with you guys. So how do you, well, if there's one thing that came out of COVID, I think, was the fact that it did bring mental health a little bit more to the forefront. People, because it started being on the news and people started coming forth and talking about their struggles and whatever. So I guess that's one little bit of something that came out of it. But, you know, if you are struggling, certainly you could come to the event this weekend, which we haven't even gotten to talk about, or tomorrow yet. But there's all kind of resources, and we want you all to know that there are resources out there if you're struggling or you know someone that's struggling. So that's what these girls do.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the event, to spread suicide prevention. We're also remembering those that have been lost to suicide. We're having luminaries that you can purchase for $1, and we'll be lighting those at 9:00 at the end of the event. And we will also have resources at our tables for people that might have lost someone. If they need, you know, a book or some kind of support, that's another thing we rarely talk about. The people that are left behind.
They're left behind. I mean, you know, that's horrible.
And that's another thing that we are behind, you know, in this area. Grief support groups, you know, things like that that are helpful for the families. Because, yeah, we think about the family immediately, and we want to ask the family, hey, can I do anything for you? But they don't really, in their mind, mean that, because they would say, well, what do I do? You know,
sure.
If that person does say, hey, I need help. Yeah.
Then what?
Well, and the one concerning thing when it comes to those families or those individuals that have been impacted by a loss, it puts them at risk for suicide themselves.
Yeah, they're twice as likely to die by suicide if they've lost a loved one.
Yeah. So so again, those resources, getting that information into their hands, and, you know, knowing that we know that you've lost someone, here is some information, some resources to help you recognize what is going on and how you have those supports. So those are things that the Suicide Prevention Collaborative is working on to try and, you know, our goal is to be able to have something like a loss team to be there for the families. But right now we do have efforts when we do hear about a loss, we try to get information and resources out to those families.
So how do you know, because everything's so private nowadays and you have like the HIPAA laws and all of this stuff. I mean, how do you guys even know what's, you know, going on?
A lot of times the health departments have been really good to help us. And, you know, when they get the death certificate, if it lists as suicide, it automatically gives you the next of kin, which is a public record.
I was going to say, that's public record.
It's a public record, and if we know about it ahead of time, we've been trying to take resources for the family to the funeral home, and then if the family is willing to accept those, then the funeral home will give it to them, and it has resources, contact information. And it's just easier for the family than a stranger coming up to them and saying, here's the packet, you know.
Yeah, like, who are you and whatever. And it is a whirlwind at that moment. And a lot of times, you know, some of this stuff doesn't set in till much later, your feelings and
some people
and all
it's years, especially if they don't know what to do with their grief. And that's another thing with the resources. I've had families tell me that have lost someone, we didn't know what to do. We was on Google trying to figure out if our grief was normal, and that is not acceptable.
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, the internet's a great tool, but you shouldn't have to Google feelings.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. Or read about it on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about your event tomorrow. Who, what, when, where, all that. What's going on?
All right, you want to start?
Well, it is going to be at the University of Rio Grande at the Line Center. We're going to, since it's raining now.
Yeah, right. Of course, it's Friday. It rains every Friday.
Yeah.
Every day
Every
this
Friday.
week has been nice.
Yeah.
And then here comes the event on Friday.
Every
Let's rain.
Friday. I mean, it's just gotten to be a joke.
So it has now moved from the parking lot at the Line Center to inside the Line Center. We're going to be in the upper and the lower gym. So basically, the bulk of the whole building.
Okay.
And of course, we're going to have activities for all ages. I think we even have an inflatable that's coming in.
Yes.
Nice.
We're even going to put that inside.
Yeah, we're putting that inside.
We're not going to miss out on any of the cool things that we were going to have. It's just going to be all indoors. That's why we're going to have both of the gyms, so we can make sure we get everything in there and
Love that.
be able to have our luminaries. That way we can light them.
So we'll have information tables from a variety of community partners, ranging from mental health and behavioral health services to addiction services to the health departments. You know, I believe even I'm hoping we're having the VA come out. So
Great.
It's an opportunity to get information. It's not just for kids. It's not just for the university. It's for everyone. So we made sure that we were able to have information for pretty much all who are attending. Do we have? I don't remember. Do we have the therapy dogs coming too?
Yes, we got dogs coming.
Yay. Sold.
Everybody loves dogs. And something I wanted to mention, we have to give props to the community. We have had so many people outreach. Restaurants have gave us gift cards, and we're having food. Not just a little food. We're having hamburgers, hot dogs, pizza, breadsticks.
Oh, heck yeah.
We've had a lot of support.
Pizza and dogs? Are you kidding me? That's fantastic.
Yep.
And of course, well, we know we have the radio coming out and joining us on site, and we have our legendary Rockin' Reggie.
Of course, spinning
some tunes.
Yeah, silent auction, raffles.
Great.
Of course, we've also got some live entertainment that's going on. We're going to have the Terrasol Band. We've got the Renee Stewart Band, and the Grand Chorale is going to be performing for our final end of the day with our Remembrance.
Yeah, they actually just recently started back up. They were not in existence for several years, so it's really exciting that they're newly formed back.
Love that. So, okay, something's going through my mind as we're talking about this event, and I see it as all a positive, but I also see this as a catch-22 because I feel like, again, going back to the stigma, if people really need help, how do you get them out to an event where God, man, and everyone can see them there? You know what I mean? And like maybe people would be embarrassed to come out because someone would be like, oh, you're here, so you must be suicidal or whatever. What would you say to that?
Well, that's the reason why it's called Hope Fest. We didn't want it to be something, and why we have activities, why we have so many things going on, just to encourage people to just come out and be engaged. Yes, we have information tables. It's information for you to grab. You don't have to engage in a conversation. You don't have to sit down and have somebody speak with you. You're not going to be interviewed or anything like that. Basically, it's just a come, be part of this, support, have fun. Mm-hmm. And if it's materials for you, great. If it's materials for a friend, pick them up. If that person doesn't come, you come. If you know somebody who's struggling, you come. We have the resources, we have the materials. It's gonna be there available, and it's free.
And there's a lot of local stuff in there. I also wanted to give credit to the Atom Board. Shannon has made a resource guide. It has all the behavioral health agencies, all of the substance abuse agencies, and all of the services are listed, not just the phone number. So if you grab that, which they'll be available at the Hope Fest.
That's huge.
Exactly, yes.
And maybe you don't need it today, but maybe you need it 6 months from now. And
exactly.
You say, hey, I picked that up at that event, and I'm going to look through here and see if there's someone that can help me out.
Yeah, we have a lot of good services in our communities, but people don't know anything about a lot of them.
Okay, and I think that's fair, and this is how you know.
Exactly.
So this is about learning and fun. And you can pet a dog and eat pizza.
Pet a
There you
dog,
go.
eat pizza. Yeah.
Oh, and the bounce house.
And bounce
Just
in a
don't
house.
take the dog and the pizza in the
And
bounce house.
or
We'll
don't
get in
eat
trouble.
the pizza before you go in the bounce house.
Oh, yes, please. No.
That could be real bad.
Yeah.
No, that sounds like a wonderful event, and I think that I just wanted to get it out there that just if you come to the event, no one's you're not being judged.
No.
You're being like embraced, and whether it's for you, a friend, a family member, whatever, or you just want to come and have fun and fellowship, that's okay too.
Yes.
Yeah. I think sometimes we think of suicide, we have to be somber, but I think this gives people a opportunity, to laugh and be around people that, are like them and they don't realize. Another thing we forgot to mention is we're going to have beads that we're going to give out, different color beads, and they represent, if you have a personal struggle, if someone you love has a struggle, if you've lost a loved one, and we've made the collars, like differentiated. If you've lost a spouse, if you've lost a child, there's
Gotcha.
one for the VA.
So if you choose to wear one, yes, it does identify you, but you can actually, as sometimes say, you find your tribe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's good to know that you're not alone. You
Yeah.
see someone else with the same bead and you're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing you said. If someone is struggling and like we have the same bead collar, be like, hey, how are you? And I'm open about my mental illness, so I could come up to you and say, hey, this is what I have. How are you doing?
Yeah. And I think anything that you can talk about and get it out in the open is, I don't know why we as humans are so weird about that stuff. I don't know where it started or how we were taught to live in silence, but I think it's silly.
And I think that's here in our area, that's probably why our suicide rate's so high. Because here in Appalachia,
We're proud.
Yes, very proud
Very
of what we
proud.
have.
And
we
stubborn.
should be. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I know it's kind of hard. I just have some suicide, I guess, general questions. Like, I know it's hard probably to put like a finger on it, but like, are there reasons listed as to, why people would commit suicide? Or, obviously you can't talk to the person afterwards, but, I just feel like, I just wonder why our area is so high.
There's been some areas identified, loss of a spouse through divorce, or like we said, death of another loved one.
Financial issues,
Financial
I'm sure.
issues, yes. Loss of financial security. That was a big one during COVID. If the man loses his job and he's been the primary breadwinner, then he feels
Back to the being proud
then he feels
thing.
terrible about himself that he can't support his family, and he doesn't feel that he should tell anybody because
he's a man.
Exactly, and
yeah.
he's proud, and he doesn't know what to do.
Did you see, I assume that there was an uptick in suicides during, the COVID situation. Not that we're out of it by any stretch, and I don't think we ever will be, but was there an uptick in suicides, while people were kind of at home, or do you know
Actually,
yet?
no.
Really?
The suicide rate went down about 1,000. Yeah, during COVID.
Interesting.
And there's been a little bit of talk about maybe why that is because people were more together in their homes. So they had that support, from their family. And I didn't think about it. Yeah, I thought, well, people be struggling. They all have this illness, but they were more together.
Okay.
So they could recognize things in their family members that maybe, they wouldn't have other times.
I could totally see that.
I do know that I do think that there's still a lot of research and a lot of work that is being done through coalitions, through AFSP, through the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation, and a lot of other partners in the state that are still looking and researching actively as to the why. And some of the things that, and I'm going to bring this up, that have come about in the state to start looking more into understanding the why of suicide have been psychological autopsies.
Oh, I think that's fantastic.
That sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah. Can you expand?
Yeah, I'll
that?
tell you a little bit about that.
I mean, listen, they do this with football players and all of this stuff, so why not?
Yeah.
I mean, this is how we learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation, we are so fortunate to have them. They have trainings, then they offer the trainings for free.
Whoa.
Yes, it is awesome. And that's what one of the psychological autopsy trainings was offered. And I went to that and actually, yes, got certified. And what it does is you look at the life of that person, from the very beginning, childhood, if they had any trauma as a child, everything up into, actually, I'll give you an example. Our case study that we had to do to become certified, we went through the life of Kurt Cobain.
Okay, yeah.
I know that's,
well, that would be an interesting
controversial.
one
Did he, die by suicide? Did, something else happen to him? And, it's not that, we actually figured that out. It just gave us maybe ideas of, stuff we didn't think about, that maybe would have triggered him, to lead into that. Yeah, with the research. Yeah, and that's something we're going to try to do in this area. We're trying to get suicide fatality review boards. That way, when there is a suicide, we can come together as a group, with the coroner, health department, people that are psychological autopsy trained. So that way, and we're trying to combine the overdose fatality review board also, because a lot of our overdoses might be suicides. And unless there's a note,
that's a whole other situation as well.
Yes.
And I think Judge Music, when he was in, was talking a little bit about that too. What we were talking about drug court and that kind of thing, but that is exactly right. You have something to say.
Oh yeah, he's part of that establishing that.
Doing
committee.
a great
He's doing
job
a great job with that.
That's
overdose
my opinion.
and suicide fatality review boards. But this is something that is starting to come into place, and it's an option for a lot of counties to be able to implement. And I can say that our counties are working on trying to do that as far as integrating that as something to.
Is that something that the family would have to agree to, or you just kind of?
You really
because you need their help,
you
right?
You need the family involvement, because a lot of that, obviously, it's not public record, and it shouldn't be. So yeah, you need the family involved so that you can
friends
get
or whatever.
So that if people are willing, the more people that are willing, and I think the more efforts that we have, it will become more normalized. But we need people. We're really, as you can tell, we're really working hard for our suicide prevention efforts and our postvention efforts, which is when you lose someone to suicide. It's just now, that we have that information out there. We just need people to join us.
I just want to make it clear, though, that with those review boards, those are closed. Those are not anybody in the community can get involved in.
I'm
so
glad
I
you
just
said
wanted
that.
to make sure
that is not a public record.
This is
thing
not
at
a
the
public
health
record
department.
thing at all. This is not something. This is something that is, private. It's a strict group of people that go through and do this work.
That can be trusted.
That are being. That are basically being those responsible members in the community to really look and review on this. It's similar to where we have the child fatality review boards. Those go on. Those are closed. Those are private. Those are not for general public. But what has come from things like child fatality review boards were things like car seats.
Yes.
Or things like, so when deaths happen, other things came to surface. So things like car seats, things like, sleep,
cribs, safety,
crib safety.
Yeah.
So that is sort of when you look at what an overdose and suicide fatality review board has. This is what the intent is not to sit here and make the families uncomfortable, but it is to help understand so we can prevent further deaths.
Yeah, to identify the trends, because even though you see what you see, that might not be the underlying reason. So you really want to, get to the bottom of, hey, like that's how the studies of white middle-aged men, has come up, is they've used that data, and that's how they figured that out.
That makes total sense. And again, this isn't like public, and it's not like taking this person's life and dissecting it in front of the whole world. This is just, I guess my thought is, why would you not open that book up for somebody to study that maybe this would be prevented in the future? A suicide would be prevented in the future.
You mean sharing it like to the other?
No, I mean like, why as a family member would you not want someone to kind of study your family member and find out why, perhaps, and help somebody in the future?
I think this will be really helpful, because a lot of times the families want to know why.
Yeah. That's the main question. I asked the question, why? And I don't know that there's really a cut and dry answer to that.
Yeah, and you might not be able to figure out the complete why, but you can maybe give the family a little more closure, because it's a crisis that it happens suddenly. So, it's not like an illness where maybe you can say goodbye, or what happened to your loved one.
And this goes back to what I was saying, the couple that they were interviewing about their son that did the shooting, and they said the same thing. Like, I don't know. We'll probably never know why, and we might not want to know why, or, whatever. Like, we don't know. Nobody knows. He knew, but we don't know. So, that's if you can figure out some of that, that would be great. So, all right, let's talk about this event again, because we want everybody to come to it.
It's Hope Fest. And it's rain or shine.
Dogs, pizza, hamburgers.
Pizza, hamburgers at the University of Rio Grande Line Center from 3 to 9 p.m. So like from 3 until 7, we're going to have a lot of the activities, the food, we'll have the radio, we'll have Rock and Reggie. And then we'll be kicking on our live music at 7 o'clock, starting with Terra Soul, followed by the Renee Stewart Band, and then finishing off with our Remembrance ceremony with the Grand Chorale and the lighting of the luminaries. So it's going to be a fantastic evening, afternoon to spend on a Friday.
And you don't have to come the whole time, right?
You don't have to come the whole time. You can come and go.
Yeah.
We set it up so that way, if there was something that appealed to you during the early part of the day, that's great. I do know that a lot of our resource tables, they will be closing up at 7 o'clock just because, it's a long day for a lot of people and agencies to have added onto their day. But, we'll have the resources available there. Come out. It's no cost to come. We do ask, but we do ask that you help support us, because we have the silent auctions. We'll have raffles, and those are going to have ticket sales for those. We've got our T-shirts that are going to be $20 available
we
to
forgot
purchase.
to mention the T-shirts.
Well, what the heck?
and of course, if you really, really, really want to help support and make the night end beautifully, purchase a luminary for $1 or by donation. That's the really big part. It's there to remember and honor those who have been lost, anybody, if you just struggle, or if purchase a luminary.
Yeah.
To just help, because every little bit helps. And these funds, they're going towards the Mindy Pope Scholarship. They're going towards providing speakers at the University of Rio Grande, and it's going to be providing community education and event support funds for the collaborative, because, it costs money to be able to get information, to be able to be printed and go out into the community. But we want to make it fun.
All of the support that we get, because it wouldn't be possible,
Right.
without our community. And another thing I wanted to piggyback off of what Shannon said is we encourage people to bring something of their loved one, as
that's a good
to put on their
idea.
remembrance, because I think
Yeah.
that gives people an opportunity to heal. They want to talk about their loved one. We want to avoid them, but they want to talk. They want to remember their husband, their wife, daughter, son. So yeah, we encourage people to just bring out, and they don't have to bring the original, just make a photocopy, or if you're going to stay the whole time, maybe bring something that was their favorite, maybe a blanket or
Stuffed animal or
stuffed
something.
animal,
and you can
or-
take it home with you. Don't have to leave it.
Yes, it's just we've done it in the past, and it's just, you just feel like that person. If you
Yeah.
can see a picture of these people that we've lost, they're normal people in our community that we don't want to think of.
Yeah, and that's not okay.
No. And we want to talk about prevention, and that's great, but we also need to talk about after we've lost
Yeah.
people. And I think that's the part we don't want to talk about. We want to talk about helping the people while they're still alive, but obviously we're never going to have zero suicides. So we need to focus on, after we've lost someone also, just as much as prevention.
Yeah, and it's like one of those, I think you kind of touched on, it was one of those where you go to a family member and you say, if there's anything I can do, and then if they say, okay, and then you go, oh, I didn't really think you'd say okay. Like, then what do I do? And that's, a great, this event is a great resource for things like that. Because I don't know anybody that doesn't know somebody that's been affected by suicide. Maybe not directly, but indirectly. So you can be there for that human.
Yeah. And I think something that you had just now said is people that have lost someone, even if it's not the suicide, you're not there to fix them. You're just there to listen to them. That's what most people need, is just someone to listen and, give them hope. Hope that it will get better.
Hope Fest.
Oh, there you go.
Hope Fest.
Love that. See, we've come full circle.
Exactly.
No, I think that's fantastic. And so if there's somebody that's struggling out there today, if we touch one person, that's fantastic. If we touch, a million people, even better. But if there's somebody out there today that's listening in, and they're thinking, I do need some help, or I think my child needs some help, or whatever, how would they contact you? Who should they call? I know that you mentioned the 988 number, but is it, who locally could they get with?
I know, because I'm employed at Hopewell, we have open crisis walk-in, from
Like just walk in the
from
door.
8 to 3. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can walk in, and within 2 hours, someone will see you, assess you, just to see if it was an immediate crisis, and you can go home with resources and maybe an appointment, or if you're not safe to return home, and then they'll set you up with a higher level of care.
Right. And I think, you mentioned it, at the end of the day, if there's something really serious going on, call 911. Like, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And that's okay too.
Yes.
Exactly.
I don't think there's anybody that would say, well, I don't know if I wish you hadn't called.
Yeah.
No, that's what it's for, and they want you to call.
Yeah, and like you said, some of it is just, I need somebody to talk to.
Sure.
I'm struggling with my issue. I just need to tell someone, and for someone to be there with me, just someone to hear me.
Yeah. And do you find maybe that kids would be more apt to talk to somebody else than their parent, or husband maybe not talk to their wife, but somebody that's just, a neutral party? I think that, you probably see a lot of that too.
I think, and that goes back to therapy. People will be more apt to talk to someone that they don't talk to every day.
They don't feel judged, and they don't feel like there's going to be a future conversation about it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we need to
Interesting.
normalize medication.
Yeah.
Sometimes, anxiety, depression, sometimes they're not situational. Sometimes people have that underlying depression, mental illness. It's no different than medical. issues, high blood pressure, high
Unless
cholesterol.
you're Tom Cruise and he thinks that there is, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, we need to focus on, mental illness just like medical issues.
It is, and it is. And, I forget what I was listening to the other day, and it was on the radio, but they were talking about that and how it is truly, like anxiety, for example, is, and I don't know the medical term, but it basically makes your fight or flight reflex is off for some reason. And it makes you feel like you're, running all the time, or you need to get away, and that's what anxiety is. And it's something that's just chemically wrong, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's okay. If you have diabetes or whatever, you take medicine for it. So if you have something chemically going wrong in your body, that's okay. You take medicine for it. And there's other ways to combat it too, but
and that's part of the stigma. Sometimes we fault people for their mental illness. We don't fault people for their diabetes and for their high blood pressure, their high cholesterol.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, but we fault somebody for being depressed. And unfortunately, society thinks that people can change their depression. That it's just something
suck
that...
it up or get over it
exactly.
or whatever.
Yeah, but if you're chronically depressed, it doesn't matter what is happening in your life. People think, well, what? And I've had people ask me this before, because I have depression. What do you have to be sad about? You got a job, you got a house, you got all of this, but it's not that. It's a chemical imbalance in our brains that cause us to feel depressed. It wouldn't matter if you had $1 million. Right. You're not going to get rid of your depression.
No, and that's, it goes across all classes and whatever, kind of like drug addiction and whatever. It's not, there's no, one class that it affects. And, and I've heard that too, like, what in the world would you be depressed about or whatever? You have everything. And I think that almost like when people get to that level too, it makes it even harder to talk about, because then you feel like a real idiot when you say, well, I have, all of this stuff. This is why I think you see so many people in Hollywood lose their minds, if that's a bad word. That was a horrible word to say, but like Britney Spears, we talked about her, she had everything in the world. Why would she have issues? But it's because she had issues.
Yeah, and the more people that are quote unquote important, if they speak out, then they will think, hey, that person has it all, and they still have depression, so it's okay.
Yeah, and I don't know why there's not more of that too. Like, it seems like, they come on and they want to talk about politics and every other thing known to man, but mental illness would be something that would actually do some good from the Hollywood set.
Yeah.
But
and something else I
who
wanted
are
to,
we?
Yeah, something else I wanted to mention is, like Shannon had said, she works for the Atom Board, the alcohol, drug addiction, mental health. It has a big long name, but basically, if you don't know where to find resources, you can call them also.
Call Shannon.
Shannon will hook you up with whatever you need.
Yep.
740-446-3022.
There you go. And you are based kind of out of Gallipolis, but service this area.
We service this area.
Yeah.
And again, we've got this great resource guide that's coming out. Actually, there's like 700 copies sitting right now somewhere in this building that we have. So,
yay! Thanks to our friends at Zip Printing.
Yes.
Right.
So, but this is something. But we have a digital version available too. So maybe I will try and get that to you to share online.
We would love that, and I think that's amazing. Thank you for working so hard on that.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's great.
It was something that we knew that was much needed. It was one of the goals of the Atom Board, is to make sure that we had resources out there and available to our communities. And we finally did it.
Yeah.
We
need to give a shout out to Zip Printing also. They have been amazing and almost immediate turnaround, and they're here in the community.
Yeah.
We need to utilize our community partners.
That's right.
But I know that
he's empty-handed.
He's empty-handed. Well, we'll just
Well, they are all boxed up right there. So there is a not a forklift. What do you call that?
A pallet?
No, the
Dolly.
A doll. Oh,
yeah,
they're already packaged up.
Yeah,
is
they're
what
already
you're
packaged
saying.
up.
Okay, I gotcha.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 big boxes of them. Right
Okay,
there,
well, we
so.
won't break apart the boxes just to show you. But anyway, so you have to come to the event tomorrow and get one of those, right?
Or get the QR code to scan for your digital version.
Yes.
I'm very, like I said, I'm very excited. I wish I would have brought that in today. But I do want to let you know that next month is Mental Health Month.
It is.
It is.
Okay,
We'll
great.
have to come back.
Yeah, right? I know.
And actually, yeah, and then we'll have another event here in Jackson, actually. Another opportunity, to come out to get information.
Oh, cool. Well, yeah, come back and tell us
tell you
about
about
that.
that.
Yeah, that sounds great. So you all, I mean, we have like 5 minutes, so I'm going to keep you here. So the ADAM board is also alcohol, drug addiction, and then mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes those go hand in hand.
They do.
Can you talk about that for a second? And, I think, and then if somebody is struggling maybe with alcohol or drug abuse situations, what could you do for them as well? Since we talked a lot about suicide today, but.
Right. Well, as you said, a lot of these things, they do go hand in hand.
Yes.
They're what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Coexisting.
They coexist with each other. Because someone may turn to a substance or turn to alcohol because of depression, because of anxiety, because of something else that is going on, mental health related. That's
To
not the
try to,
case
like, stop
to
it.
try and stop it.
Yeah.
To self-medicate or something
Soothe.
or self-soothe. And
Yeah.
really, and that's, not knowing the kind of coping skills or the things that you can put in place to counter that. That is why, some people will turn to a substance. But, it's hard to say,
It doesn't always have to be that way.
It doesn't always have to be that way. But, I can say that at Hope Fest, we're going to have some of those partners that
Great.
We've
Okay.
got Field of Hope that's going to be coming out and setting up. I know that we've got Cardinal Recovery Services, and they've actually got their guys coming out to volunteer and help out. And
Oh, cool. Thank you.
It's just just because you're in addiction does not mean you don't have hope.
Yeah.
Hope is there. There is a way that you can get out of this. And, addiction has many hats.
Very much so.
It's not one thing. It's not one substance. And, there's stigma in addiction. And we need to look at each
Big
other
time.
far more compassionately. I mean, I had a conversation that broke my heart with a parent who had said, this is their child, now an adult child, though. They were a star student. They got scholarships. They had big dreams, and a lot of it started from not over the counter, but just after having a surgery, prescription medication.
Yep.
And I will say we just had Drug Take Back Day, which was on this past Saturday, and we in Jackson County alone, we brought in 47.5 pounds of prescription medications.
Oh, whoa.
So
Wow,
things that
I
were
didn't
turned in.
attend that, and I didn't know that
Oh,
number.
wow.
And
That's
so this
amazing.
is me releasing that number. No. So yay,
You
all
heard it
got,
here
you got-
first.
You got to hear first. But I mean, these are the efforts that we do to try and let people know that sometimes it can start as simple as that. You had something prescribed and it brings you onto that path. We've got some really scary things that are coming in. And, again, that information, come to the Spark, coalition meeting. We try to talk about, the substances that come in. We've got Ted Frazier, our sheriff, who comes in. He's part of that. Actually, we just threw him on the spotlight for the phones down.
Yes. Right.
that law. But, we have community partners that come in. It's open to the community to come in and learn about stuff. We're wanting to bring in more educational efforts, but we want our community to come and attend. So we have hopes to be able to have things like town halls and education sessions. And so, those are ways to get informed. Get informed. The DEA has information on their website on all the different drugs that are out there that you can educate yourself on. The CDC has information.
Just don't live with your head in the sand,
you
man.
It's
out there.
You don't have to.
You may as well know.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
parents, if you have kids, go on to Talk They Hear You. Learn about underage drinking, how to have those conversations with your kids.
They hear you. Seriously.
Because it doesn't just cover, it does not just cover underage drinking. Right here, Talk They Hear You. It's not just about underage drinking. They actually have information on how to have that about vaping, on opioids, on marijuana. These are the core things that we're seeing in our communities right now. We don't need to have this data. This is national. This is a campaign. This is vetted material. It's not something that's made up. It's out there.
Oh, for sure.
And I can say, and I hate to brag, but our counties got recognized for our campaign nationally
it's
on SAMHSA.
Good job.
We got nationally recognized for our efforts.
Yay!
And actually the podcast that I'm in on is airing during National Prevention Week, which is the week of May 5th.
Awesome.
So, we're going to be, and I'm joined with other partners in our state that have been doing the same good work with that campaign. So check out Talk They Hear You. Go look at the resources. If you don't know where the resources are, we'll guide you, we'll direct you.
That's
right.
exactly right. That's why these girls are here.
And then, like Shannon said, come join our coalitions. They're community owned. That's what, if we didn't have community members, we wouldn't have a coalition. We all have a monthly meeting. They're hybrid. Gaia Jackson and Megs all have a separate meeting. They meet monthly, and that is all in the awesome resource guide.
Yep.
There
that
you go.
information is there.
Just need that resource guide. So you have to come to the Hope Fest tomorrow and pick that up.
Exactly.
You'll be the first ones to see it.
Yes, hot off the press.
Yeah, literally. All right. Well, girls, thank you so much for coming in today, and best of luck at your event tomorrow. Please, everybody, come out and support it. Get some information, if not for yourself, maybe you'll have a loved one or friend down the road that needs the help. So there you go.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, well, thank you. All right. Well, have a great day, everyone. And we appreciate you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, I think, with some news. So until then, enjoy your day. Bye-bye.